Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something. When it comes to relationships, there's one thing that never changes. Every man loves to talk about himself. Oh yeah. You ask a man the right question, and suddenly he becomes a whole TED Talk. A meaningful question builds deeper emotional connection because it goes beyond the surface of casual talk and touches the core of who a person really is. In a world where most conversations sound the same, where people ask, "How's your day?" or "What do you do?" just to fill the silence, a meaningful question stands out like a bright light in a dark room. It shows interest, care, and intention. It says, "I see you. I'm curious about you. You matter enough for me to want to understand you." And that kind of curiosity is power. The kind that makes people open up and feel connected in ways they didn't expect. When you ask someone a question that means something, you're giving them permission to reveal parts of themselves they usually keep hidden. Everyone, deep down, wants to be understood, to be known for more than just what they show on the outside. A question like, "What are you most proud of that nobody notices?" Or, "What's a dream you had to let go of?" gives a person the space to be honest. That's where real connection starts, in the truth. When people share something real, it creates a bridge between two hearts because vulnerability invites empathy. A lot of relationships never reach that level because we stay in safe zones. We talk about the weather, our jobs, the news, things that keep us comfortable but not close. But connection isn't built on comfort. It's built on courage. It takes courage to ask something meaningful, and it takes courage to answer it. Yet when that happens, something beautiful begins. You start seeing the person not just as someone you're talking to, but as a whole human being, full of stories, fears, hopes, and quiet victories. Steve Harvey often says that good communication is the foundation of every relationship. And he's right. But good communication isn't just talking, it's listening with purpose. When you ask a deep question, you have to be ready to listen to the answer, not to reply, but to understand. That's when people feel safe. And safety is what keeps connections alive. Because when someone feels safe with you, they'll tell you things they've never told anyone else. And once that happens, the relationship shifts. It becomes something real. A meaningful question is like a key. It unlocks emotions, memories, and dreams. It takes a conversation from shallow to soulful. That's why, when you ask a man the right question, he can't stop thinking about you. Not because you played a trick, but because you made him feel something real. People remember how you make them feel more than anything else. That's the secret. A meaningful question, just words. It's an invitation to connection, and once that connection happens, it stays long after the conversation ends. People crave being truly seen and heard because deep within every human being is the desire to be recognized, valued, and understood. It's not about attention, it's about acknowledgement. That quiet feeling of being noticed not just for what you do, but for who you are. In today's world, we live surrounded by noise. Everyone is talking, posting, sharing, and performing, but very few are actually listening. And that's why being truly seen has become such a rare and powerful experience. When someone really looks at you and listens with their heart, it touches something inside you that words alone can't describe. Most of the time, people go through life feeling invisible. They play their roles: worker, parent, friend, partner. But few take time to look beneath the surface. They might smile and say, "I'm fine," while silently struggling hoping someone will notice the truth behind that answer. To be seen means someone pays attention to the details, your tone, your eyes, your silence. It means they care enough to understand the things you don't say out loud. To be heard means someone listens without interrupting, without judging, without rushing to respond. It's listening to understand, not just to reply. That kind of listening is love in action. When a person feels truly seen and heard, something changes in them. Their walls start to fall. They stop performing and start being. They begin to trust. And with trust comes connection, the kind that isn't based on looks, status, or convenience, but on emotional truth. This is why some people can talk to each other for hours and feel like they've known each other forever. Because one person took the time to really listen, and the other felt safe enough to open up. That safety is what every heart is searching for. Steve Harvey often talks about how relationships fail when communication breaks down. But what he really means is that people stop seeing and hearing each other. They stop paying attention. They stop asking questions that matter. You can't build love on silence and assumption. You build it by showing up, by noticing, by caring, by hearing the heartbeat beneath the words. When you listen deeply, you're telling someone, you're worth my time, my focus, and my energy. That's the kind of message that stays with people long after the conversation ends. The truth is, everyone you meet is carrying something, a dream, a fear, a memory, a wound. And when you make space for someone to express that, when you look at them and truly listen, you give them a gift that can't buy belonging. You remind them that they matter. That's why when you make someone feel seen and heard, they can't forget you. Asking, what are you most proud of that nobody notices? Opens vulnerability because it invites honesty from a place that people rarely get to share. It's a question that cuts through the surface and reaches into the heart. Most people walk around carrying quiet victories. Things they've overcome, sacrifices they've made, or dreams they've chased in silence. But they never get recognized for them. When someone asks this question, it gives them a chance to finally let that part of themselves breathe. It's not just a question. It's a form of care, a signal that says, I want to know the real you, not just the version everyone else sees. Vulnerability is something that many people fear, especially men. Society teaches them to be strong, to hide their emotions, to never show weakness. But inside, everyone has stories of struggle, pain, or perseverance that shaped who they are. When you ask a question like this, it creates a safe space where they can lower their guard. It's powerful because it doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for truth. And truth is what opens the door to intimacy. When someone feels they can be vulnerable without being judged, that's when real connection starts to grow. Steve Harvey often says that people fall in love with how you make them feel, and vulnerability plays a big part in that. When a person opens up about something they're proud of, but nobody sees, they're revealing the softest part of themselves, the part that wants to be appreciated. And when you listen with genuine curiosity and admiration, it touches something deep. It's like shining light on a place that's been dark for a long time. That moment becomes unforgettable because it's real. People don't often remember the words you say, but they always remember how you made them feel safe enough to share. In relationships or even simple conversations, vulnerability builds bridges. It turns strangers into friends and friends into something more. When you ask that question, you're not just collecting information, you're building trust. You're showing that you're not interested in the mask, but the person behind it. That's what everyone secretly longs for. Someone who sees them completely and still chooses to stay. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. This world has not yet a part of yourself that the world has overlooked. And it takes kindness to create a space where someone feels they can do that. When you ask a man or anyone this question, it may surprise you how much it means to them. They might hesitate at first, but once they start talking, you'll see their whole energy change. They'll light up, their eyes will soften, and suddenly, you're not just two people having a conversation. You're sharing something real, something human. That's why asking what someone is proud of that nobody notices is more than curiosity. It's connection through vulnerability. And that kind of connection lingers long after the words fade. Real attraction goes beyond looks. It's about curiosity and empathy. Physical beauty may catch someone's eye, but it's the way a person makes you feel that truly holds your attention. Looks can fade, but the heart and mind leave an impression that lasts. Curiosity and empathy are what transform a momentary spark into something meaningful. When you're genuinely curious about someone, you're not just admiring them from the outside, you're seeking to understand who they are inside. What drives them? What scares them? What makes them laugh when no one else is watching? That kind of attention creates a magnetic pull that no amount of physical beauty can compete with. When you show curiosity about someone, it tells them they matter. It says you're not just interested in their appearance or what they can offer you. You're interested in their story. You want to know what they think about the world, what they dream about when they're alone, and what experiences shape them into who they are. People can feel the difference between shallow attention and genuine interest. When your curiosity comes from a place of sincerity, it becomes one of the most attractive qualities you can have. Because curiosity makes you present. It makes you listen. It makes you care. And in doing so, it builds connection. Empathy takes that connection even deeper. It's the ability to step into someone else's shoes and feel what they feel. It's not just hearing their words, but understanding their emotions behind those words. Empathy turns curiosity into compassion. It transforms attraction from something physical into something emotional and spiritual. When someone feels that you truly understand them, that you can sense their joy, their pain, their hope, it creates a bond that no surface level charm can replace. Steve Harvey often says that love isn't just about finding someone who looks good, it's about finding someone who feels good to your soul. That feeling comes from empathy. The truth is, physical attraction may open the door, but curiosity and empathy invite you inside. They keep conversations alive, hearts open, and relationships growing. When two people connect through curiosity, they never stop learning about each other. There's always something new to discover. When empathy is part of that connection, it builds trust and comfort. Two things that make love last. Without empathy, attraction is just chemistry. With empathy, it becomes connection. Looks might catch attention, but the warmth of understanding keeps it. You can forget someone's face, but you never forget the way they made you feel valued, heard, and seen. That's the kind of attraction that endures. Curiosity draws you in, empathy holds you close. Together, they turn ordinary moments into unforgettable ones, and that's why real attraction has nothing to do with appearances. It lives in the space between two hearts that truly understand each other. Listening deeply is more powerful than talking often, because true communication isn't about how much you say, it's about how well you understand. In a world where everyone wants to speak, few take the time to really listen. People are quick to respond, to give advice, or to tell their own story, but what most hearts are craving is not a reply. It's to be heard. When you listen deeply, you give someone the gift of presence. You're telling them, without words, that what they're saying matters. It's one of the rarest and most powerful forms of respect. Listening deeply means putting your ego aside. It's not waiting for your turn to talk or thinking about what you're going to say next. It's being fully in the moment, tuned in to the person speaking, catching not just their words, but their emotions, their pauses, their tone, their silence. Sometimes it's in the silence that people say the most. When someone feels truly listened to, they start to relax. Their defenses drop, their words become more honest, and the connection becomes real. That's how trust begins, not through speeches, but through quiet understanding. Steve Harvey often says that relationships fall apart when people stop listening. He's right, because love needs attention to grow. You can't love someone properly if you're not listening to who they are and what they need. Deep listening helps you see the person behind the words. It helps you notice the things they're not saying out loud. It's being able to look beyond frustration, beyond mistakes, hear the heart that's speaking underneath. That's what separates hearing from listening. One goes to your ears, the other goes to your heart. When you listen deeply, you become a safe space for others. People start to open up, not because you're the loudest or the smartest, but because you make them feel understood. Everyone wants that feeling to be accepted without judgment. Deep listening gives people that peace. It's not about fixing them or offering solutions. It's about letting them be seen in their raw, honest self. That's healing. Sometimes people don't need answers. They just need to feel that someone cares enough to listen. Talking can make noise, but listening creates connection. The world is full of shouting. Their stories trying to be heard, yet the ones who make the biggest impact are those who take the time to listen. When you truly listen, you begin to understand the beauty in others, their struggles, their courage, their truth. You start to see the world differently, with more compassion and wisdom. Deep listening changes not just your relationships, but also your character. It teaches patience, empathy, and humility. And in the end, it's the quiet listeners who make the loudest difference, because they give people what they rarely find: a moment of being fully understood. The right question can turn a brief moment into a lasting memory, because it lingers long after the conversation ends. A simple, thoughtful question has the power to reach into someone's heart and stay there. It's not about impressing them or sounding clever. It's about asking something that touches who they really are. The right question shows that you care enough to go beyond the surface, that you want to know not just what a person does, but who they are when nobody's watching. When you ask that kind of question, you leave a mark. Not with your looks, not with your words, but with your understanding. People remember how you make them feel, and a meaningful question makes them feel seen. It tells them you're curious about their truth, their experiences, their story. Everyone carries memories, dreams, and scars that rarely get asked about. Most conversations stay in the shallow end, about work, hobbies, or weather. But when you ask something real, it pulls people into deeper waters. A question like, What changed you the most in life? Or what's something you've never told anyone? It doesn't just invite words, it invites emotion. And once the emotion is involved, a connection is formed. That's why one good question can do what hours of small talk never could. Steve Harvey often says that when you make someone feel special, they'll never forget you. The right question does exactly that. It makes the other person feel valued, respected, and important. It gives them the space to express themselves honestly, sometimes in ways they didn't even know they needed to. People don't often get the chance to talk about their real selves. So when you offer that opportunity, you stand out in their mind. You become the person who made them think, reflect, and feel understood. That kind of impact lasts far longer than any compliment or joke. The right question also builds trust. It tells the other person you're not here to judge or control, you're here to understand. It takes the conversation from ordinary to unforgettable. A lot of the time, people are waiting for someone to ask them something that gives them permission to open up. Once that happens, the whole energy changes. The conversation becomes alive, and time seems to slow down. You start to feel like you've known each other longer than you actually have. That's the magic of asking with heart. When a question sparks a real conversation, it becomes a moment that sticks. You might forget what someone was wearing or where you were, but you remember how that exchange made you feel. Connected, seen, human. That's what turns a brief moment into a lasting memory. The right question doesn't just start a conversation, it starts a connection. And connection is what keeps people thinking about you long after the words have faded.